Welcome back into Byerly Studios, everybody. Let's kick off another acrylic painting video. Now in this video, we're going to be using this Craft Me pre-made wood paneled board. You can get this at Walmart, and it is assembled in China. So sold at Walmart and some of your other craft stores. And it's like a little bit of a pallet type of board. It's not great quality wood, but it's good for what we're trying to do when you're just hanging it on a wall or creating a sign. It's just a good general crafting board. We're going to be creating a wildflower acrylic painting in this video, and I really do hope you guys stick around and enjoy the process. But this is one of my entries into the Carolina Classic Fair of 2024, so this will go in that playlist as well as the acrylic painting playlist. And it is not a bad board at all. It is a 16 by 12. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin by just cleaning off our palette here. I will introduce my palette into this video, so you'll see that as well as I distribute new paints onto that palette. But we're going to go ahead and begin the process of just kind of toning the general board apart from the white. So it has a nice white flat paint on it now, and it's a little bit of a chalky texture when you run your hand across it. It's not a gloss or anything like that, and it's going to take paint for the most part pretty well. Go ahead and get this anchored into place here, and it's not going to move anywhere. I will loosen that a little bit as I move the canvas around here a little bit later on in the processes here. Now we're going to be kind of just giving it a general layer of film paint here. We're just going to tone the background a little bit. I just didn't want that white cake chalky looking background. So we're going to begin by introducing a burnt umber here. I'm also going to introduce a little bit of a raw umber as well. And it's just going to layer this in and give it a nice dirty dinged out texture. Here in a moment, I'll also get out a little bit of titanium white, more so Naples yellow. I want to get that little bit of a yellow tone or hue to that paint, and try to avoid too much titanium white. I don't want to introduce too much titanium white because pure white and pure black in a lot of paintings just don't sit well with me. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying I like to introduce more browns and cool colors into some of those colors like black. Use paint gray instead. You get a little bit of a bluer tone. You'll use a little bit of Naples yellow instead of a titanium white and get a little bit more of that yellow color. I'm also going to hit this sporadically with a spray bottle, and it's going to kind of create a little bit of a drip effect. Not too much, just enough where I'm kind of happy with it. You'll also notice that there's a lot of wood grain texture into these boards, as well as the actual space between the boards themselves. I will accent this as I paint in this background here. We're going to be, again, using a pale blue. We're going to be using a titanium white, as well as a Naples yellow, and then a yellow ochre. And we're just going to kind of layer these in here and there. I will also add a little bit of retarder there, so that way I can keep this background nice and loose and wet as I apply this. And if I need to push it into some of that wood grain, then I can do so. I do come on later on down the road, and I'll give it another little layer of titanium white and a little bit of ultramarine blue, just to give it more of a blue sky background. But that'll be later on in other processes of this video. So sit back, enjoy the music, and we'll go ahead and paint out this overall background. Alrighty, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that overall kind of toning of the background there. I did use a little bit of that raw umber there, and burnt umber, and I kind of ran that between the boards to create more of a board seam there between them, so you can really tell that those boards are separated from one another. We're going to introduce ultramarine blue as well as some pain gray. We're going to use also titanium white, and we're going to go ahead and begin to just lightly kind of blend in a little bit more of a sky tone here. Now, I'm not going to go over the entire upper portion of the board with this. I just want to create a nice pale blue to ultramarine titanium white background. You just your standard overall sky color, it's just very, very rudimentary, very standard, and we're just gonna kind of mainly focus that in the middle upper portion of the board canvas right now, and then we're going to start introducing some greens across the bottom. Alright, so I've almost got that how I want it for now, at least. Again, later on I come back with a little bit more of that titanium white and ultramarine blue just to kind of tidy it up even a little bit more, but not so much. But this is kind of how it's going to stay for the most part. Hit that with a little bit of water there, see if I can get any dripping down into where the grass is going to be. Keep that palette board moist. Now we're going to introduce a little bit of a sap green, hooker green, as well as some pain gray here. So we're going to go ahead and introduce a lot of darks here and there with the pain gray, and we're just going to go ahead and slowly introduce more of a grass field-like texture from the bottom up. Now I'll start off with the larger round brush, and then I'll eventually move into a palette knife just to create a lot of scrapage, to get a lot of application of that paint to particular areas. And then eventually here in a moment I'll also introduce some cadmium yellow hue as well into that. So go ahead and sit back. We'll go ahead and get some of this green locked into position, and don't forget, we will come back later on and tidy up a little bit of green here and there throughout the process. If I feel like the grass needs to be a little bit darker behind any of the wildflowers, then I'll darken that out a little bit as we go. Now we're going to begin the process of introducing a little bit of the palette knife here. Now I'm going to create a much more scraped motion here. I want to leave a lot behind in particular areas, leave a lot of thick paint, but also leave a lot of streaks. So I'll introduce a little bit of titanium white into this green mixture, and we'll randomly blend that in so that I can create a nice kind of streaked texture with a lot of like a thickness to it. And then of course we can come in and add more of that later, but this is where it really starts to thicken out. I don't want too much of that board tone that we had created before with the earthy colors to be showing through the base of that grass. So we're going to try to apply enough layers to kind of blend that out quite a bit, so that way that board is no longer visible through that green color range that we have here. So here in a moment, I'm going to also pull out my paints. Now we are going to use a variety of paints here. I'm going to pull out so many vibrant colors. The first few that I pull out will be really old paint, you guys. So I stated at the very beginning of the video, we're going to be using very old paints. These are paints I've had for years, and I've never touched them, never used them. Now some of them I literally have to throw away because they're hardened up, or the oil in the acrylics or whatever is in those, the additives is just jellified and it's not worth anything. But if I feel like I can bring some of that consistency of the smoothness back to those acrylics, then I will reuse those. So as we introduce colors here, just be aware that the first few are really old paints. Don't expect much out of them, but for this type of painting, when we're just doing it to have fun and we're making it for the fair, and we're probably just going to hang it on a random wall of a bathroom, for instance, it's no big deal. I'm not selling it. I'm not using the most rich paints that I have. Now, the last few of the paints on the palette there that I apply will be brand new paints, and those are Winsor & Newton Galleria paints. So those will consist of like a fuchsia, as well as a pale blue and a few other colors, cadmium orange hue, cadmium yellow hue, and of course my titanium white that I'm using for this is a Galleria from Winsor & Newton. So that's not an old paint. Because I am using that titanium white to blend into all of those vibrant colors to create petals and different flower textures there, I want to make sure that at least is consistent throughout the whole process, and that the blending agent that I'm using, which is titanium white, is consistent throughout the whole process. Alright, so you can see there that green is really thickening out a lot. It looks really good, and you're not seeing as much of that brown color from behind, and that's also because of the palette knife layers that we had done. It does take quite a bit of paint to do that because I'm not using any kind of mediums or additives into my paint to thicken them out, but it just looks really cool. Now generally you would want to keep the lighter colors towards the top because that's more of where the sunlight would be glistening through those upper portions of the wildflowers or the very tops of the grass pieces. So you kind of keep the yellow and titanium white up towards the top, and then generally you want to keep the darker colors towards the sides and the bottom, and then sporadically through the middle. And I just really had fun putting the green on here, and it was just a really blast of a process. Introducing more titanium white here, I'm just really using what I have on my palette. I try not to waste paint when I can get away with it. So we're just going to go ahead and apply a lot of streaks to this, a lot of like kind of texture throughout the process here. Alright, so up next we're going to go ahead and begin to layer in a little bit more blue on that background. Now this is a pale blue as well as a little bit of titanium white, and we're just going to kind of just bring in a little bit more blue on that background just so it kind of makes that grass stand out even more so. But I will leave a little bit of that brown, kind of Naples yellow ochre brown background peeking through this layer here, and I don't want to blend all of that out. If anything, I'm using it up in the corners just to kind of like bring it across the grain of the wood, and it brings a lot of focus in on that grain. If you're looking in at the item, you can really see where the paint just rides along the edges of the grain and the wood texture, and it really just brings out the accent. It looks really cool. Here we are introducing those colors as I spoke of earlier, and here in a minute I'm going to give you over to the music, and y'all just sit back and enjoy as I just introduce a bunch of different types of flower texture to this. And then I'm not doing a study on this. I'm not doing any kind of color palette prep. I'm just applying a bunch of colors here with titanium white in the very middle, and we're just going to go for it, you guys. So again, the top colors around the palette, the kind of like kind of magenta, the red, as well as one of the blues, are very old paints, and I just want to recycle and use some of those up. The ones at the bottom, the light pale purple, the Winsor violet, as well as the cadmium orange hue, the yellow or cadmium yellow hue, as well as the ultramarine blue. And there's also a teal there in the upper right hand corner of my palette, and then of course that titanium white is new. So not too many used old paints, but just a few. And that way I can use those up here. So we're going to go ahead and start applying the paint to the flower texture here. So sit back and enjoy as I just kind of just have fun just literally throwing paint on the canvas. And this is all in one complete session. Enjoy, guys. Alrighty, you guys. So as I kind of near the end of this project here, it was just very fun to put together, and I did it over like 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days in total, spending about 30 minutes on it at a time. And the last painting session was probably about maybe 45 minutes or so of me just like picking out colors, and just having fun, just applying it, sitting back, see if I want to apply a paint in a particular area, add a little bit more here and there. But it turned out really spectacular, and I look forward to varnishing this. Now I'm going to varnish this in 2 different layers, so if you want to check out that video, make sure you check out this playlist later on down the road. And I'm trying to create a little bit of a varnish texture so that the light catches the edges of those petals a little bit. Kind of something new and experimental with satin varnish layers from Liquitex. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and I'll catch you guys on the next awesome painting video. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of my content. Later, guys.